Welcome to the Neo-Masculine Minutes podcast show, where my co-host Dan Ploger and myself, John Protek, discuss the truth about unreliable information. In this current age of rapid-fire information, people are growing weary of biased personal opinions, outrageous ideological narratives, outright lies, and intentional propaganda meant to divide us. Dan and I wonder, when will people fall for the truth? When will they reject the informational threats that are destroying families, ruining societies, and destroying cultures all around the world? Welcome back to another episode of Neo-Masculine Minutes, where my co-host Dan Ploger and myself, both critical thinkers, discuss relevant subjects to the human condition. Today, the Olympics, the 2024 Paris Olympics, are finally coming to an end. And boy, what it has been an interesting display of oftentimes ridiculousness, great sportsmanship, but the dissemination of narratives that make no sense. We just witnessed a guy who genetically is a male win the women's boxing gold medal. I mean, there might be an aberration here, something that she or he wasn't born with or was born without. I don't know what the details are, but I do know that the genetic test marked him as a biological male. And he beat the snot out of the women that he faced. I mean, and why wouldn't a male beat? Men are, muscles are stronger. They have a quicker response times to, a man, generally speaking, can knock a woman out. I don't care how much training she has in boxing. Most men are going to knock a woman out. That's kind of what this guy did. I think the Italian boxer, this guy was from Algeria. Think about that. But he was from Algeria. He broke the dreams of so many women who have trained their whole life. And Dan, a biological male won a gold medal in women's boxing. I mean, we won't even go with the opening ceremony because there's a lot of controversy around that, what it was or what it isn't. But what happened this year in the Olympics? A lot of people tuned out.
Well, I did. If I'm typical, I have no desire to get involved or embroiled or even think about any longer think about the trans issue and whether men should be able to play in girl sports. Absurd, just absurd question, absurd conclusion by otherwise smart people, and I have no interest in being part of that.
Yeah, and that's it has raised some issues about aberrations with the human organism, where there have been times where, I guess in this case, this is what's being said. I haven't really had the opportunity to investigate deeper, but he was born basically, from what I've read, maybe with female organs, but somehow in his genetic markers, he's been tested to be a male. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but what you really brought to light was the transgender issue.
Apparently, there's a Y chromosome involved. You can look at his biceps and see that those are not a girl's arms. And usually I am led to believe is it's a result of the testes not descending in the male. And oftentimes they will descend and become closer to a normal biological specimen. So in any event, there's testosterone and Y chromosomes that are greatly affecting the performance, and to even talk about male athletic performance versus female is ludicrous. It's there's no sense in even comparing. Just chalk up the fact that men are physically superior. You can argue that they're emotionally inferior. That's another issue entirely. But they are physically superior. And anybody who tries to level the playing field by giving an advantage to different types of people is just it's foolish on its face.
Well, you take the Vitruvian Man, this Da Vinci picture behind me here, and obviously you can see that it's a man because of his physical attributes, right? There's also an image of a Vitruvian woman, which we could share on this when we post this episode. But I remember my wife telling me, if you ever get confused, if you ever wonder if you're a man or a woman, basically pull your pants down, take a look.
Yeah.
It'll dispel whether you're a man or a woman. Now, gender identity is a different thing, and that's what's been hotly debated. I identify as a woman even though I got a penis. Well, great. Maybe it's a fantasy you have, but the thing is whatever your belief is about what your identity is doesn't become my reality. You can identify with a rat, and I can look at you and say, well, nah, you're a human. So that whole transgender movement and people, oh, you're transphobe, or oh, you're scared of gay people. That's none of that. It's absolutely none of that. People are free to choose their life, but what goes on in the mind is that's what's questionable. Okay, so you have a penis and you identify as a woman. Great, more power to you. It doesn't mean I have to accept it. In fact, I reject it. And that's the problem I think we've run into is we've got very wealthy people who may be transgender or who promote that ideology, which destroys the gay community. Think about it, but it's done for a reason. And me personally, I think it's to destroy the family unit and to create division on levels that drive people to do really stupid things.
Yeah, I would agree with you, John. It's all by design, by nefarious characters, and we just have to choose not to go along with it.
Yeah, and it's that simple not to go along with it. The really terrifying or sad part about it is how many young people who have been going through something in their adolescent stage um, get swept up in it, and the next thing you know, they're having these operations which are altering their lives forever. And then when they finally come out of that fugue state of confusion, then whoops, maybe I made a mistake. But in the meantime, a lot of people made a lot of money. That's a whole other issue. But, for me, the Olympics have been forever tainted. There's always been some controversy, but this took it to controversy. If you remember the Mexico Olympics where the guy stood on the podium with the black
Yep.
power, and then there's always been doping scandals and things like that, which are all people's earnestness to win, at all costs, or to use it as a platform for social change. But this goes beyond anything to think that a biological male would win a gold medal in a woman's sport. Well, why wouldn't he, right? Come on.
Absolutely, and it's certainly no accomplishment. That would be a gold medal. If I had it, I don't think I'd display it. I'd probably melt it down and sell it for bullion.
Well, and I even had a thought when he won the gold medal, the Algerian dude jumped on top of his coach's shoulders with his legs spread, right? And he's holding them around. And could you imagine? Isn't Algeria a Muslim country? So I'm wondering, is there something even deeper here, East versus West? We're going to destroy your culture by flaunting this bullshit right in front of our faces because there's no way in hell that in Algeria, I did the research, they have no support for gay people. In fact, you can be arrested for some of the stuff that gay people do in the States or in England or wherever. But I can't even imagine that a Muslim woman would jump on the shoulders of a man with their legs spread. It wants me to think about it a little bit more. Is there something deeper here? What do you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, well, good observation. Absolutely.
I'm
And
just
seeing aberrations and And the critical thinkers among us just have to say those are aberrations, and I don't go along with it.
Yeah, and it brings us back around to Riley Gaines, God bless her, who had trained all of her life to get to the NCAA finals. And she was like one of the fastest female swimmers ever in college sports, right? And then she has to swim against a man that identifies as a woman. And he, what you were talking about, Title IX, but he, and when he was swimming with the men, with the boys, he was like ranked in the 500, in the 500s. His times were not that great. But when he swims with the women,
I heard that he was 240th ranked in the nation.
Something like way beyond being in championship form with the men. But he jumps in a pool with the women and he wins. And he takes away somebody's spot, a woman's spot that had worked her whole life and had trained and competed for what she was, a woman. And I don't know. I admire Riley Gaines for having the courage to speak out and to work to save women's sports all over the planet, because women don't deserve this kind of disrespect and crime against their gender, which is what this is. This is gender terrorism being perpetrated by men against women. That's what this is. Maybe we just coined a new phrase, gender terrorism. But that's where I'm at with it. They've tainted the Olympics in a huge way. And wouldn't it happen in Paris, of all places, who Macron just endorsed the communist and socialist ideology against the conservatives in this country? And France has a lot of freedom-loving people. That's all I got to say on that one.
France also has a very interesting history with Algeria. Algeria used to be a French colony. And at the time I lived in Paris, which was 59, 60, 61, there was a lot of terrorism. There were sidewalk cafe bombings, plastic bomb going off and killing innocent people. And it was the Algerians. And I'll tell you that there was a lot of outright prejudice and discrimination based on the way people looked. If you looked like an Algerian, you came under the scrutiny of the police. So, yeah, they have an interesting history with Algeria, and this may have been a message from karma or something. I don't know, but it's certainly interesting.
But it even goes deeper too, like the French relationship with the early American country of America. And quite honestly, without France, America doesn't exist. So to watch a country so deep in when you think about the French Revolution itself and how bloody it was just after ours, when you think about people's love of freedom, the French love of freedom, it just takes this to a whole new level of buffoonery. The French historically, the French people themselves, dating way back, historically love freedom, and to watch their country be subjected to so much ridiculousness breaks my heart, because I personally love France because I love America, and America doesn't exist without the French. So here I am, a few hundred years later. Thank you, France, for allowing me the opportunity to have the freedom of speech that I have. And thank you, Lafayette, and all of his ancestors. But what you did at the Olympics is so anti-French and anti-humanity. It's ridiculous. That guy had no business winning a gold medal. He needs to melt it down and give the proceeds to the women that he beat the shit out of. That's all I got to say.
Amen.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode. This is use your brain, because it still matters. Gray matters. And we just want you to not be part of the group think tank, which is really a tank of sharks. They'll destroy you. They'll eat you up. Think for yourself. Be independent, and just keep moving forward for something positive on this planet. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Neo-Masculine Minutes podcast show. For the men, it's simple. Think for yourself. Dig deep. Reach down. We appreciate your earnestness in wanting to embrace your masculinity again. You are indeed the sentinels of information. The people you care about are waiting for your leadership, hoping you step up to fulfill your masculine role as protectors of the human race, to save it from any further destruction caused by unreliable information.